15% of American workers have a guaranteed pension. They will have money coming in for the rest of their lives. That number was once above 50%, but there's been a nonstop battle to strip away pensions from American workers. Employers don't like it. It's too risky. They don't know when you're going to die. Well, the federal pension is once again being targeted in order to reduce its value. How will it impact you? Let's get into it. Last week, we learned the GOP is pushing a plan to slash federal employee pension benefits as part of a massive tax and spending package. This is a full-on restructuring of the federal employee retirement system, or FERS. You have over 1 million people being covered, including federal employees and postal service workers. Why are they doing this? GOP wants to save money. About $50 billion over a 10-year period. They want to free that money up so they can fund tax cuts. There's a lot of tax cuts coming. But critics like unions are calling it a betrayal of public servants who dedicated their careers to keeping America running. This plan is moving fast. The Oversight Committee wants to vote on it this week. If it passes, it's going to get rolled into a giant bill that the House wants to pass in August. They do not need one single Democrat to agree, and they can still pass it. So what are these changes? The GOP's plan is to hit federal employees from 3 different angles: higher contributions, lower payouts, and cuts to supplemental benefits. First up, the plan is for federal workers to pay more into the pension. So depending on when you joined the government, that depends on what your contribution rate is set at. So if you joined in 2012 or earlier, you only pay 0.8%. If you joined 2014 or later, you pay 4.4%. That's the rate right now. And most people do not realize this when they're trying to get a federal government job. When you're doing a salary comparison, let's say you work right now at Home Depot and you make $70,000 a year. You think in your head, okay, I need to be a GS9, let's say, in order to get $70,000 a year. But you're not factoring in how much you contribute to your pension. That's 4.4% out of your check. So you have to do that calculation. Not just taxes, because that also comes out, right? You got your federal, your state, your payroll, and then you have, in addition to those 3, you have your FERS deduction. So their plan is to make everyone pay 4.4%. Now, this probably doesn't matter that much to you if you came into the government after 2014, but for other people, they're going to see the amount they contribute jump up by 400%. They're going to go from less than 1% to over 4%. Now, this is supposed to save the country about $30 billion over 10 years. So let's do a quick example. Let's say you're a federal worker making $60,000 a year in the old system. If you're paying 0.8%, that's $480 a year. If you jump to 4.4%, you're now paying $2,640. That is over $2,000 extra every year. Next thing they want to do is they want to change the calculation for your pension. Instead of high 3 salary, they want it to be high 5 salary. This will reduce everyone's pension across the board. The high 5 formula takes the highest 5 years you were paid in the government, it averages it out. It's typically lower, especially if you didn't get promotions in your career until later on. This apparently will save $4.75 billion over a decade. But many people are saying this would represent a broken promise. A lot of people, when they enter into the federal government, they have an understanding of the structure of the pension and what they're actually earning by way of their service. Now, my honest opinion on this is I believe people will be grandfathered in. So if you're a current federal employee, it should not impact you. I don't know that yet. But the way the government has worked in the past, there is a date in which it becomes effective. And everybody who has joined prior to that date, they're under the old system. Let's do an example. If your high 3 average is $100,000 and you worked 30 years, your FERS annuity might be around $30,000 a year. But if your high 5 average drops to $90,000, your annuity could shrink to $27,000. That's $3,000 less in retirement each and every year. And there's some federal employees, let's say you worked in the Social Security Administration or Bureau of Prisons, maybe you didn't attain a high GS grade and you ended up taking a promotion later in your career. Well, this is going to impact you in a very big way. On top of that, Congress wants to eliminate FERS supplemental payments, which are a lifeline for federal employees who retire before the age of 62. These payments, they bridge the gap until you reach 62 years old and you can actually draw Social Security. The savings is between $5 billion and $13 billion over 10 years. Now you might be asking yourself, why would a federal employee retire before 62? Shouldn't we just keep working them until 62 or better yet, 65? And the reason for that is there's some law enforcement positions and federal firefighters that by law, they have to retire at age 57. They can't stick around. Now, they could try to jump and pivot their career and do something else. But as far as the first responders, that career path, 57 is typically the finish line. Now, if you're a veteran, it can go above that, but 57 is typically it. The union called this a compounding negative impact on the workforce. So why is this happening again? Well, you can look at the tax breaks. You can look at the deficit. You can look at the general disdain that's currently being casted towards federal employees. The GOP argues federal benefits, they're too generous. What are we doing giving these generous benefits to federal employees? They're arguing that private sector, well, they're stuck with a 401k. That's all they have. They don't have any stability, security, and they definitely do not have a pension. So why are federal employees given pensions? But a lot of studies suggest that federal employees often earn less than their private sector counterparts. Different studies are done by different groups, so you're going to get a different result depending on where you're looking. If you look at the CBO report, the Congressional Budget Office, they did a study that shows federal employees that have a bachelor's degree or higher, they're often underpaid compared to the private sector. But a federal employee that has a high school diploma, they are overpaid compared to the private sector. Now, everyone has their own little story for this, depending on where you live, what agency, what office, what exactly you do for the government. But we can all agree that the more specialized, the higher in demand your skill set is, the more the private sector is going to reward you. And there's people that understand this. So it's a trade-off. I can go to Amazon or Google as a cybersecurity professional and I can earn stock equity, stock options, or I can stay here in the federal government, serve the country, be a civil servant, but I'm going to get paid less, but that's going to be okay because I have a pension to rely on. That's what's being targeted right now. Imagine trying to hire a proficient cybersecurity expert. You're competing with the market. So why would they want to work for you? Why would they want to work at the FBI or the CIA? Why, if Google can pay them double? What incentive is there aside from I want to serve my country? Because even somebody with the patriotic mindset of I want to serve my country, they still look at the news. They understand what the public perception of the federal workforce is. And that lowers the recruitment effort of all the agencies. And it's not just pensions. The GOP is also looking at insurance premiums. This is within the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program, or FEHB. So right now, the average across the government, they pay about 72% of premiums. But the union estimates that this change could drop the government share to below 50% in a decade. This is with insurance premiums already spiking. 13.5% in 2025, 7.7% in 2024, 8.7% in 2023. This could mean federal workers paying thousands of dollars more out of pocket. So now that we've gone through that, what are we getting? What's the prize? What's at the end of the rainbow? What are the tax cuts we're talking about? Well, we have the 27 tax cut extensions, but we also have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security. To pay for it all, we need trillions of dollars in savings. And that's one of the reasons why we're seeing all these aggressive cuts, not just with the federal workforce, contracts, the benefits are now on the cutting table. So some people love this idea. They say, hey, everybody should be more independent, more self-reliant. Then you have other people that recognize and understand a properly staffed and functioning government can benefit the American public. It can serve the American public. Then you have people in the gray area, right in the middle. They kind of understand, they kind of don't, they have mixed feelings about it. So if you are a federal employee, I wouldn't panic just yet because nothing I said in this video is official until it actually makes its way into the bill and it gets voted on in August. So we're going to have to wait, keep an eye on that and see how it unfolds. But federal workers are not unique as in the only people who get pensions. There's other professions where you can still earn a pension. Common jobs such as teachers, utility workers, police officers, firefighters, and the military. But in addition to these potential cuts, we also have another factor to contend with, and that's artificial intelligence. That's what makes some of these workforce cuts a reality. The fact that you can leverage technology. You can essentially replace some workers using AI. Some agencies, they're already doing it. If you want to know more about that, check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.